Well, my life is evidence that Jesus is alive because when I was 6 years old, my mom and my dad separated, and that idea of a perfect life was then crushed. I then began internalizing things. My mom stayed busy with work, and she was never really home. We just didn't talk about it. So I just began to think it was my fault, that there was something wrong with me, that I did something bad. I was not a good kid, and growing up and in middle school with all the kids trying to fit in, and then, you find out they end up turning on you and start talking behind your back, and you really feel like something's wrong with you. And I was searching for that love that would never leave, that love that was going to stay, that I thought, was possible when I was young until all that happened. Continue with more and more hurts, more people let me down. It was just people in my family, it was like one thing after another. School, I began skipping school, not care anymore. I just built up those walls. I was very angry, very bitter child, always starting fights, always getting in trouble. Again, I thought something was wrong with me, that, maybe God hated me, that I was just not good. Going to church as a little kid, seeing what I saw around me didn't portray Jesus. I thought God was seriously angry at me, and I must be already in hell. There was no way for me. Growing up, I didn't graduate from high school, which was another hurt on top of that because I missed too many days in first period with a 98 average, so therefore I hated school systems and everybody in it. With all that hurt, and with my mom, she didn't know how to handle the whole situation either. And I blamed her. I did for all those years. After that, I started, when I hit 18, I'm like, I'm gone. Ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do anymore. So I started raving, which was like techno parties, and I felt like I fit in. Like everybody loved each other, everybody was there for each other. We were on a lot of drugs at that time, and then crystal meth started coming on the scene, and everybody started turning on each other, and there again, another hurt right on top of that. I got taken to California by this guy, and ended up being held against my will for a couple of months, beaten to death, almost to death. Finally got away when he was arrested. He was running from the cops. At home, hurt, scared, afraid of everybody and everything. Everything just felt so fake and not real. And I was just wanting what I thought I felt, was real, and wanted people to be the same way to me. I began to search for that in men. A lot of insecurities there. I didn't care if he beat me or treated me like crap or used me. I just wanted somebody there with me. Got hurt over and over again. The guy that I, really thought that was my soulmate. I separated because I wanted to be sober, and he wasn't quite ready. And the old saying that if you let them go and they come back, they're meant to be, right? Well, finally, after a bunch of years, he did, and he was murdered on the phone that night. So again, it was like, what is this life even about? Why? So many questions, so many, I didn't understand anything, and I just ran. I wanted to run. So I ran to Baton Rouge, tried to live there. The husband I had ended up getting arrested, lying to us, and left me and the kids on the streets with nothing. So I started just getting drugs for people, running, errands just to make some cash. And then I learned how to cook meth, so I started cooking meth while the kids were asleep in the woods in the middle of the night, because I thought I was doing the right thing while they were asleep, trying to provide for a roof for my kids. People started ripping me off, stealing from me. It was just over and over again. And when I finally said, you know what, I'm just gonna do them. So I would just make it just to do it. I didn't want to feel the pain. I was just tired. I was trying to do the best that I could, but I couldn't. And I went to New Orleans for a while, started shooting up heroin, met a bunch of people. So in that time was a very dark time, just losing everything I had over and over and over again. Me and my girls were in my car, had no place to live, and then we were in a hotel and my car got stolen. So it just kept getting worse, and it was just so dark. I just remember those times as being just dark. Like, it didn't even feel like the sun would shine. It was like this little black cloud over my head every day. I was miserable. So I finally called my mom and told her to come get me. And I was like, I'm going to quit. I'm just going to do this one last time. I'm going to quit. So she came and got me, and I ended up blowing the house up. And she called the cops. And I was going to run. You know, I've been running forever. And was stealing from stores just to make it. I was just tired. I was tired. So I ran around in circles for a couple of times, and then I just hit my knees and said, okay, this is it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. God, you're going to have to help me. You're going to have to help me. So the cop pulls up, and of course I've hid everything in a garbage can. And I just prayed, Lord, I'll do whatever. Just don't let him look in the garbage can. And he looked everywhere but the garbage can. He tried to get me with precursor, which is pretty much 25 to 30 years, 40 years for manufacturing, which I should have gotten. Anyway, so I go in jail, and while I'm there, of course, I slept for a while, but when I woke up, there was a lady in my bunk, and she asked me that she didn't have glasses, so she would ask me to read her the Bible every night. So I would start to read, and I'm like, it was a peace that I've never felt in my whole entire life when I read. It was like and every night I wanted to read more and more. And then there's one verse that said, it's James 4:8, and it stuck out so big to me. It said, draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. And I was like, that is what I need to do. I need him right now, you know. So it was just, the more I would read, the more he just spoke to my heart, and all those truths just began to just come off the page. It was like we spent time together. And then I began to do stuff weird, like I know it was the Holy Spirit now that he was prompting me, you know, I wrote out every single thing I could think of that I did wrong, just wrote it out and asked for forgiveness. Forgive me for this. I lied to my mom. I mean, simple, stupid things from as far as I can remember. And just that weight that was lifted off of me from that was just amazing. So it's all like starting to become real to me. But then they called my name and they dropped my felony to a misdemeanor and then sent me to rehab. And I'm like, that is a miracle right there, right? So then it was just like, that all became real to me, that it's true. He died, and he's alive, and he cares about me. As much as I've done wrong, I mean, I have stolen from people in store. I mean, I've lied. I've done so many things wrong. I've probably been responsible of deaths because of the drugs I sold. Me? Me. So it was amazing. I was like, whoa! You know, I got sent to rehab, and it was just like the whole world was bright, full of color all of a sudden. It was something that everything was alive, and I was alive. And I hated so many people, but I loved again. And that's real. And while I was in rehab, you know, the Holy Spirit was teaching me things. A funny story is this girl was causing so much trouble in rehab, and I was a fighter, so I really wanted to really fight her to get her to be quiet. But the Lord, I bought a drink out of the Coke machine, and the Lord said, give it to her. At the time, I thought I said it, but before I knew it, I'd already given her my drink, and I'm walking back to the room like, why did I do that? Like, why did you just do that? So I sat on my bed, and I opened up the Bible, and started reading, if your enemy is hungry, give him something to eat. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, the Lord just spoke to me, and I just did something. And we never had a problem out of this girl after that. So I'm sitting in the room, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so good. And all of a sudden, my eyes were closed, and the atmosphere changed in the room to where I just immediately was crying. And then I got scared, like I was dead. So I knew something was in the room with me, very bright, and I could see the brightness with my eyes closed, and I just bawled. And then it went away. And I felt this amazing peace, and I walked outside, and there was this huge rainbow in the sky. And it was like the Lord just spoke to me. He said, I promise I will never leave you, and I'm here for you. You know, he gives me direction today through the Holy Spirit. Just amazing things. I could go on forever. So anyway, another good story is when I got home, I'm thinking everything's perfect, you know, but I've heard a lot of people, my mom still, you know, thinks I'm old ginger. And here I'm like, I'm new. I forgive you, I forgive everybody. And they're not forgiving of me. And it took some time for that, but God's so good. So I get home and ended up getting arrested again right after I got home. And I'm like, why? Like, I've done all this. And of course, everything inside of me, well, my flesh wanted to say, you know, well, this is it. You know, how dare you think that you deserved anything better? But there was also a part of me that was like, no, he did something for you before, he will do it again. And I held on to that. So I began to write scriptures. You know, I was reading this book, Purpose-Driven Life, and just writing everything that stuck out to me. And every day I would go around and just walk, and I would say those scriptures every day. And I would keep my mind from freaking out because I had denied a public defender. They weren't coming to get me. I was stuck, and I put myself in a hole for a felony that I really didn't do. Anyway, one day they were all talking about doing the Jericho walk around there, and I'm like, yeah. But I'd been, you know, they were walking with me that day. And the next day screamed, and we went to bed. The next morning they called my name, and I'm like, what? My dad came and got me. You know, I'm excited. I go out there, and I was like, what? Where's my dad? And he was like, well, nobody's here. Your charges were dropped. And I'm like, what? Can I use the phone? So I called my dad, and he was 15 minutes from coming to get me in Baton Rouge. So he was right down the way, fixing to spend a lot of money to bail me out. And I was free, just let free. So yes, and now that's it. You know, that God showed me I can always depend on him, and that anything that comes up, he will provide it. So today I don't struggle like I did. I don't have to struggle like to keep making it every day. It's just I sit back and I wait for my Lord to provide for me. And it is such an amazing thing. I have peace today. I don't worry today. I'm blessed beyond measure. I have my kids back. I have a wonderful husband. I've even gotten to fly airplanes. Like everything that I wanted and dreamed of, God gives to me, and I don't deserve it at all. For the last 10 years, I have lived free because of Jesus.